Baseball has implemented another new rule. Pretty soon, we're going to need cheat sheets in the program just to know what the heck is going on. Two new stadiums are under consideration, one baseball, one football. But could these conversations lead to these two teams leaving their hometown? And the NFL draft renderings have been shown for 2025 in Green Bay. My big question is, where are people going to fit? That and more coming up on Sports Talk with Dad right now. Welcome back to another amazing episode of Sports Talk with Dad. As always, my name is Kyle, and I cannot call this Sports Talk with Dad without the man sitting next to me, a man who was alive when baseball was easy, my dad, Tim.
Where you could watch a game and you didn't have to check, what is this rule all about? Like when a guy's being tagged out, he's safe when the guy had the ball and glove?
Well, and that's what I want to talk about here, is I want to get into these baseball rules.
We'll do that in a minute. I've got something else to start the show with.
Okay.
So our hometown has been in the news around South Central Wisconsin recently because there was a rumor going around that they may be changing their name.
Oh, so we're going to start crabby on this show
right
early.
Right
okay.
away.
Just wanted to make sure
now,
the person I was dealing with today.
Now, I will say that now the rumor is it's just in the beginning conversation and nothing's going on. So there's all sorts of political questions going on.
Sure.
But we grew up in a town that was named the Warriors.
Yes.
Used to have an Indian warrior chief headdress as the logo. They got rid of that 20 years ago.
It was like when I was in middle school or something.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Which I can understand, especially if the nation that is in that area came out and said, guys, this is a little offensive.
Sure.
All for it.
Yep.
Now they're talking about, for some reason, taking away the Warrior name. Which,
I heard.
Why would you do that?
I want to let you all know, I heard about this for 2 hours last night. So enjoy this.
Here's my question on this whole thing. And it has nothing to do with the school in question, but I'm getting really tired of people who are going to school or have towns that are very rich in Native American heritage.
Correct.
Changing the names of schools to represent something else.
Correct.
Embrace this history or we're erasing it forever.
Well, and that's what I'm nervous about, because there's a line of being respectful and erasing history completely. And we have been for a while very much teetering on that line. There is a rich heritage in the United States that started before 1776.
Absolutely.
Where there was a whole group of people with different cultures that lived here, and we really shouldn't be forgetting.
No, and we had the conversation about the Redskins.
Yeah.
Number one, the Redskins name was based on historical knowledge. The Native Americans from the Northeast called themselves Redskins because they put red clay on their skin to keep the mosquitoes away.
Correct.
Granted, it got to be offensive because in the Western movies that came out,
right,
they made it derogatory.
Yes.
See that as it may. But the Redskins organization took it too far and got rid of the logo that was on their helmet since like 1925, 26, or whenever it was put on there.
Was it that long?
No, I think it was later on.
Yeah, I think it was the 50s.
Let's do that.
Okay,
so the 1950s. It was designed by a Blackfeet chief.
Correct. And the Blackfeet want the logo back.
Plus, the family wants it back.
Correct.
You're exactly right. We're teetering on the brink. If you live in an area that is rich in Native American heritage, embrace it and name your teams after it and honor those people. The town we grew up in runs millennia deep in heritage. Yeah. And we never, ever thought of it as being derogatory when we called ourselves the Warriors.
No.
We were honoring, those people had to fight just to survive day in and day out.
Correct.
And we were honoring those people. To take that name away is a slap in the face to all those people that live there. So I hope the city does the right thing.
I hope so.
And they take the time and then get in the community and do something to honor it. Maybe you keep the name Warriors, have an Indian spear go through it, whatever, to represent whatever the Ho-Chunk Nation or the Indian Nation in the area that you live in thinks is respectful.
Correct. Yeah, that area we grew up in is famous because that's where Marquette portage from Fox to Wisconsin.
Sure.
And it was a trading post between settlers and the Native Americans that were there.
Mhm.
I would hate to see that lost because the name they're coming up with is pretty dumb. We're not going to get into that. But remember to
be wise.
Draw that line and make it very, very clear in the sand to make sure we're not forgetting an entire group of people and instead honoring the history that your state has.
You said it better than I ever could.
Well,
Thank you.
I had to listen to you for 2 hours last night. Be angry about this.
And it wasn't just about our hometown. It was about all of this. When you try to get the Chiefs to change their names,
right,
or the Indians to change their name, which they did, which I thought was a shame that they should have went to the people in the Cuyahoga area and let's get a name that reflects your heritage.
Right.
The Guardians means nothing, and we've erased all that history, and I've got a problem with it.
Well, the Indians specifically, and it's a good tie-in because we're going to baseball after this, the Indians were named the Indians because they had it was Cuyahoga tribe, right? I think it was a Cuyahoga tribe. They had 3 Cuyahoga tribe members playing on their baseball team.
Yes.
So they changed the name in honor of those 3 players, and that history's never talked about.
Oh, and by the way,
frustrating.
The word Indians is not offensive. It has nothing to do with them trying to find India. It actually comes from the word Indios, which means of God.
And anybody who watches this show has heard this rant several times. I want to get into baseball.
Fine.
Normally you're crabby at the end.
No, I'm going to start.
But I'm going to get a crabby father. That's great. I want to talk about baseball. There is a rule change that has once again gone into place, and it has to do with the shift. So the exact rule is, basically they're keeping the rule the same. A team can't have more than 2 infielders on either side of second base before throwing the pitch. They're changing it now where the punishment is more severe because it used to just be it was a ball or a strike or something like that. Nobody really paid attention to it. Now, not only does the batter just automatically get a base, every single person moves forward a base. So if you have somebody on third, they automatically score. I have an idea. You are paid millions of dollars if somebody is shifting their entire infield and giving you that whole field to hit to, hit it over there. I'm not saying it's easy, but this is your life's work. Bunt if you have to. This is getting ridiculous.
Yes, because the shift has been around since the game was invented. Ted Williams famously, they always put a shift on for him, and he did one of 2 things. He either hit the ball over their heads and into the grandstands for a home run, or he came up with another way to get a hit. He was never afraid of it.
Correct.
These guys, as you said, are professional baseball players.
Yeah.
Let them shift.
But we've lost that. We've gotten so obsessed with the home run ball that we have these power hitters that aren't taught to literally hit the other way. They're just like swing as hard as you can, and you see it time and time again. That's what always shocked me is when this shift happened, how many times it led to an out. They are giving you a wide open field. It is like having 20 yards on a corner. Just throw the ball to the wide receiver. He's wide open. This is the same concept, and people can't seem to figure it out. And baseball, instead of being like, yeah, sucks to be you, learn how to hit the ball better and hit the other direction, or it's going to be an out. Instead, they're saying, no, we're going to protect these players and make sure hits can still be a thing. This is getting to be ridiculous.
I'll give you a classic example. Anthony Rizzo, first baseman, formerly of the Cubs, Yankees. He used to get a shift. And you know what he did?
Bunted.
He laid down a bunt.
He did every time, and he always got first base.
It was the right thing to do. He was a smart ball player.
Yeah.
Let's give these guys credit for having a brain.
Right. And if you're going to be that much of an easy out, then you probably shouldn't be given this massive contract.
Fair enough.
I mean, that's the reality of the situation here. If you can't spend your whole offseason working on your bat to get a hit, but that's just it. It's so much like hit the ball as far as you can. No, hit the ball And so it's in play.
This is still baseball. Small ball still works. Milwaukee did it a lot last year, and they actually got to the playoffs.
This is strategy. This is a chess game. Home runs are great, but you have to set up for home runs, right? And if your guy is that easy to get out on a shift and you know they're going to shift on you and it's a situation where that can't happen, then you probably need to think about putting in a different player that they're not going to shift on.
Or I'm going to put this all on the batter. If you see the shift,
right,
think in your head, okay, I'm not going for the fence on this one. I'm going to lay down a bunt, or I'm going to wait back on it and hit the ball to the opposite field.
Yeah. The other rule that they changed, which I'm also extremely annoyed about, is you cannot run past second base anymore.
No,
it happened
ridiculous.
for 1 year, where the Cardinals figured it out, and then everybody else started doing it.
Now, you explain this, because forever and ever, if a runner was going from first to second, he would slide to get down.
Correct.
The Cardinals figured out, don't slide, run through second base.
But there's more to it as well, because the reason the Cardinals had to think of this was because they had taken away the ability to break up the double play.
Right.
When I was growing up, if there's a double play going on, the second baseman or shortstop, whoever gets the ball, knows there's a foot coming at them, and they're going to get taken out, because that's how baseball worked. They got rid of that. Player injury, blah, 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 whatever. I get it. And so they figured out it's faster to run through the base than it is to slide. And so people just started running through second base, and a runner scored. It was brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Because if they didn't get out before that runner scored, the run counts.
And now baseball has made that illegal, which what if the guy's able to take third because third base is open? Like, you're taking away plays in baseball. This is getting too complicated. The best sports have the least amount of rules. Just play baseball. The infield fly rule is confusing enough. Like, we don't need to add all these other rules in place here. The pitch clock was great. I love the idea what Rob Manfred is saying, trying to get pitchers to be stretched out again and making pitchers the star again. You can't keep changing these rules every single year. Baseball's already in trouble. ESPN has officially dropped baseball. They are no longer a part of ESPN, which means they will no longer be talked about.
They weren't
ESPN.
being talked about in the first place, which is why Rob Manfred went and said, $550 million for what, folks?
And he's not wrong.
No.
You have not done enough to make the sport be forced to be talked about. It's just not exciting. Everybody's watching the game confused. We saw a play just the other day where the shortstop makes a great tag at second base, and they said that the shortstop was blocking the base path with his glove while he had the ball in his glove to tag the guy, and they called the guy safe.
Well, the ball was right in front of the bag. The guy slid into him. That's been a part of the game since day one.
Correct.
This is, I saw a video with Goose Gossage.
Yeah.
And they were asking him about baseball. He goes, I don't watch anymore. It's not the game I played.
It's not.
You got pitchers who are going in for one inning. They're not pitching. They're throwing,
Correct.
which we said forever. He goes, this is not baseball anymore. Pitchers should go in and plan on being there till the 7th, 8th, or 9th inning. You don't want to be taken out.
Right.
Players at second base always knew that if there was going to be a double play, somebody was going to come in. But now we're protecting him. It's almost like we're giving participation trophies here, and guys might get hurt, so we can't slide. Bull. This is still baseball. These are still men, young men in the prime of their lives. They can play the game aggressively.
Well, and you're looking at it the wrong way. See, how baseball is looking at this is we need to protect these multi-million-dollar investments. The way it needs to be looked at, and how I see it, is you paid that guy millions of dollars to go and play a sport. Make him go out and play the sport to live up to his contract. Well, if he's not hurt, that's great. But if you're not bringing in money and putting people in the stands because baseball's not fun, then what's the point of spending the money?
Well, and baseball is, what have we talked about for years? They start playoff games at 9 p.m., 10 p.m. Eastern. They've lost at least 3 generations of kids, and that's why the audience is going down. They're talking about going to streaming, which I don't agree with. Baseball should still be on primetime, regular network TV.
They should be. Well, they need to get a contract with Fox or NBC. And in the summer times, have Sunday night on NBC. Fox takes over later. You have to do something with that.
Here-
Obviously, ABC is off the table because ABC is owned by Disney, which owns ESPN as
Here's
well.
the problem, though. They've got to replace $550 million. That's not easy to do.
It's not. But if you find a deal with YouTube or one of these premier streaming companies, you can make that up pretty quick. You know what would really make this up is making the game more exciting. I watched the movie Mr. Baseball with Tom Selleck. Great movie.
Yes.
I highly suggest it. And it was so much fun watching that movie because there's a lot of baseball in it. And it's, oh, this is why I fell in love with baseball. And this simply doesn't exist anymore.
Well, you want to know another movie that will do the same thing? Just a bit outside. We were at the premiere.
Yeah.
1982 Milwaukee Brewers. That's when baseball was great.
Right.
Because those guys were hard-nosed. They had fun, but they played the game the right way. And by the way, they didn't worry about a shift. They didn't worry about any of this. If you tagged a guy when he was sliding in the second, he was out.
Well, in baseball, like, people forget baseball is a contact sport. Like, if you're running down the first baseline and that first baseman is coming to catch the ball and is in your way, you just hit him out of the way and you are safe. That's baseball. These are professional athletes that are getting paid to play a game. And I'm tired of this. I'm going to watch what I say here. I am tired of watching these players who are making more money than anybody has before and are spitting on the game that got them the opportunity to make this money. Go back and play baseball the way it is meant to be played. People will flood the stands.
Give you classic examples. Catchers, the play at the plate used to be the most exciting part of the game. If a guy could slide in and get around the catcher, he would do that. Sometimes it meant running over the catcher to try to jar the ball out.
Yeah.
Catchers were the toughest guys on the team.
Yes.
Always have been. Most of the time they held on to the ball. One of the greatest plays I ever saw was an all-star game. Dave Parker in right field threw the ball on the fly to Gary Carter at the plate. He blocked the plate, and he kept the runner off the plate by doing the job right and blocking him out. Greatest play I've ever seen. That play would be viewed as illegal now.
Correct.
And it's ridiculous.
The Buster Posey rule.
Don't
Again, let's protect the multi-million-dollar player rather than worry about the game. And that's where the baseball union has to be a part of this conversation, where it's saying we need to protect the sport and not the player. It is a privilege to play in baseball, and it is more about the sport than the player. And every single major league sports league, except for hockey that I've seen, is more interested in protecting the player than the game. And that's why you're going to lose audience.
Well, and I'm going to warn you about something else. At the end of the 2026 season, there's a very good likelihood that there will be another baseball lockout, which will be another nail in their coffin.
It's
the players and the owners need to come together and figure this thing out and play baseball and not do it. Now, let's talk about one other rule they're doing in spring training, which I've been against, but the way they're doing it, I think actually makes sense, and it's quick, it's easy, and it works. And that is the automated balls and strike. Now, the umpire is still...
Wait.
Hold on. The umpires are still calling the game.
Yes.
But only, and I mean only, the pitcher, the batter, or the hitter can ask for a review.
The batter is the hitter.
Sorry, pitcher, catcher, or hitter. Sorry. Thank you for correcting.
You're welcome.
They're the only ones that can ask for a review. They tap their helmet, it's a Hawkeye system, just like in tennis. It's quick. You see the ball, strike or a ball, and they move on with their day. It cannot come from the dugout at all. So it's very quick. I like that idea. It's a challenge system because there have been... Angel Hernandez would be in hell right now if the system was in place when he was there, because every play would be, I want to check that.
Yeah. You know what I love about this more than anything? It's showing that pitchers don't know the strike zone as well as they think they do.
Unless you're Greg Maddux.
Unless you're Greg Maddux. Greg Maddux doesn't play anymore. But there's been a lot of pitchers calling for challenges that have stayed. And what it also has started to show is what I've been saying for a long time is that that box is not accurate. That
Correct.
box on the TV that has led to all of this is not accurate at all for most batters,
And apparently in this system, they've loaded in every batter.
which you
So
have
they'll
to.
adjust.
Because that's a big thing too.
Yeah.
For those of you that don't know, and this is why that box is so wrong, is that it is from right here in the chest down to the knees.
Right.
And that changes for every player. On TV, they don't change the box.
And you know what I like about this? Corbin Burns, great pitcher, Cy Young Award winner, had a no-hitter taken away from him by Craig Counsell, but we won't go there. He's now an Arizona Diamondback.
Yep.
He said the system works very well. He was very impressed with it. When a guy like that who has very good control says, yeah, this system works, I'm buying in to give it a shot.
Well, the system's already sponsored by T-Mobile, so it's not going anywhere,
No,
clearly.
It's going to be in the major leagues. I don't know if it'll start this season. It's in spring
It's not
training.
starting this season.
Give it a shot.
Let's
do that.
I actually am starting to like it as well. You know, I thought robo umpires for a long time, and then I started actually paying attention to that box, and I'm like, no, please don't do that.
Well, it's because I started making you pay attention to umpires and the fact that most of them, unless you're Angel Hernandez, are really good at
Can we
this.
pick on him anymore? He's gone. I think we should give him a break.
Okay.
He's retired. We'll pick on different umpires.
Yeah, we'll find a different one that can't
There's
call balls and
always
strikes.
ones.
So, but most umpires are really, really good at what they do.
And we're starting to see that. And I'm glad that we're doing this with each player being loaded in. The only thing that I'm nervous about with this is if a player goes into a swing and lowers his knee, well, that's now the strike zone. That's his knees now. It's changed. That's how the umpire sees it. And so you have to take that into effect as well. There's a lot of variables with balls and strikes being called. The only thing for sure is that the plate
Yes, they're
is solid.
They're measuring from front to back and width to width.
Correct.
It'll be interesting to see if Burns likes it. I'm going to give it a shot and see if it can work out some of the kinks. There will be kinks.
Yes.
But to your point, if it can be done quickly, and if they built something in, so if a batter does adjust, like on a check swing,
Yep.
and they can quickly judge it, fine, go ahead and do it.
And those are two rules. That's a rule with the pitch clock as well that has enhanced the game. It's going to make the game better. Baseball needs to focus more on that version of enhancing the game rather than these stupid rules that are just making the game more confusing and more unwatchable.
The clock has speeded it up. This will be a good, because it's not going to take a lot of time, but they also have to address the fact they need to get this game back to the kids.
Yeah.
And if they don't start getting kids playing and interested in going to games and watching on TV, their baseball as a sport is going to be behind hockey pretty soon.
And listen, this goes a lot into how little leagues are set up, which I have a big problem with now. But that's a story for a different day. Something else happening in baseball that you told me a lot about is there's news on the Tampa Stadium.
Yes. So everybody knows the Trop is going to take $60 million to fix.
Minimum.
Probably never going to happen. They're playing at a minor league park for this year over in Tampa. According to J.P. Peterson, who has a radio show in Tampa, there is a group based out of Tampa that is in negotiations with Stu Steinberg, the owner of the Rays, to buy the team. Steinberg is apparently asking for $2 billion. The team is valued at 1.2.
An evaluation of 1.2 that's going to need a new stadium.
Yeah, and he paid $200 million back in 2004 for the team.
You never know if you don't ask, you know?
Exactly. So, but I've got some questions on this. Where is this story coming from? Because somebody had to leak it.
Yeah.
If there is an ownership group in Tampa, and according to the report, they've got the stadium deal pretty much locked down to build it in Ybor City, which is downtown Tampa. What politics have been played?
A lot.
A lot. That's not going to do anything to enhance the relationship between Tampa and St. Pete, who have competed for years. And here's another thing I have a question about. The organization in Orlando, the Dreamers. They were trying to step in and buy the team.
Right.
Is there now going to be a bidding war? Or are they trying to do this very quietly, get the deal done? Because don't forget, March 31st is still the deadline for the Rays to meet their end of the revenue part of this, because the city and the county have approved their money. And if the team doesn't come up by March 31st with the rest of the money, the deal is done.
Well, the deal is done.
And all that property in the Gaslight District or Gas Plant District goes back to the city.
Which is going to happen. I mean, the owner has come out of the Rays, has come out and said, I'm working through things to make sure I can put my head down and sleep at night. I mean, that's pretty much the nail on the coffin that this isn't going to go through. If you, I tell you what, one thing I would put money on is that Derek Jeter is tied into this Tampa ownership group.
He could be. No names have been released about who is in this group.
Right.
And there's a lot of very wealthy people in Tampa. The money is there.
It is.
It would make sense if Jeter was part of it.
Face.
Well, he was a face in Miami, though.
Well, yeah, but Miami sucks. I think of it like when Jay-Z was in the ownership group for the Nets.
And Magic.
Moved them to Brooklyn.
And Magic with the Dodgers when they bought the new team. When they bought it,
yep. You need a face that the fans can feel comfortable with. And considering how many Yankees fans
Derek Jeter
live in Tampa.
And Derek Jeter
lives in Tampa.
And the Steinbrenners have been a big part of the Tampa community for decades.
More George, though.
Well, George, but
Hank, I don't know as much.
His sons are still...
Which is fair.
Part of Tampa.
Jeter is the perfect face to put with his franchise, especially when it comes to the politics side of things, to move them into Tampa Bay. So I think you need somebody with that kind of clout in the baseball side to get this move to happen.
Well, if it's going to happen, I don't know if the deal would be announced before that March 31st date or if they'd let it go and then announce it afterwards. But it's going to move quickly after that because they still have to build a stadium.
They do. They do not have a place to play next year.
No.
The Yankees have come out and said this is a 1-year thing.
Well, you're not going to build a stadium within 1 year. It's not happening.
No.
But if there's one in Ybor City going, we're breaking ground, we're going, they'll find some place for the next
Now
year.
you can find extensions with the Yankees. They just don't want this to be a permanent thing that sits there forever, which is why they put a 1 year on this. There's the Orlando group. Now, if this team is actually coming up for sale, do not dismiss that there will be a Salt Lake City group that's going to be a part of the conversation.
If Major League Baseball allows it, or are they working with these groups to make sure it stays in Florida?
Manfred is working with these groups to make sure it stays in Florida. But if everything's fair, Salt Lake has $3.5 billion already set aside from the Utah Jazz owner group, ready to build a baseball stadium. A gorgeous baseball stadium. It's done. The land is already purchased. It's set to go.
There's another facility that the team could play in until the new one was ready.
There is an empty minor league stadium there because that minor league team just moved, and that stadium they're talking about would be built right in that same area, from my understanding.
Like right across the parking lot or something.
It's literally right there. It makes too much sense. So if all things are fair, don't be surprised if there's a Salt Lake ownership group that comes in. I know I'm obsessed with Salt Lake. I hear it in the comments all the time, but it makes too much sense for me. And Tampa just has not supported this team.
No, St. Pete has not supported,
which is fair.
But my question
if you build it in Ybor, though, I mean, do you know how hard it is to get to Ybor City? It's going to take just as long as it does to get to Salt Lake.
And that's where to Salt Lake.
Or to St. Pete.
You talk about me.
Yeah, Salt Lake on the mind.
And that's part of my question. Is the city involved in this politics where they've got a deal done backdoor where they're going to be a part of the building and put in funds so that there is an easier way and reroute traffic to get to that stadium?
You're going to have to.
It's not an easy place to get to.
It's not. That's what Milwaukee did when they were going to, when County was there, they really designed the highways around where County was to make it easy on, easy off. And they're starting to do that with more and more stadiums because of the success they've seen with the Brewers. I do think that has to be part of the conversation, but it's the part that seems to be forgotten a lot. Like, let's just build a stadium here. People will come, not thinking, well, what's this traffic going to look like?
Well, and it's funny you say that. Let's real quickly talk about the other stadium issue. The Houston Texans are now coming up saying, we need a new ballpark or new football stadium
Renovations.
or renovations. They're
Yes.
asking for one of the two.
Right.
Their stadium was built in 2002. It's only 23 years old.
Correct.
The Houston Chronicle, the state's largest paper, has come out completely against this, going, yeah, this was $1 billion stadium, and you're telling us you're looking for another one again? Don't come to the public and look for money.
Right.
And I completely understand that. Yes, it probably needs a new coat of paint. Yes, it probably needs some renovations, but it doesn't need a new stadium, because you can't go, somebody suggested, well, just tear down the Astrodome and go next door and build it in that parking lot.
Can't.
Can't happen, because the Astrodome is on the National Register of Historic Places. That thing's never going to be going anywhere.
Do you know why? I'm serious. Do you know why?
Well, it was the first dome stadium. I know that.
Not just that. It was the first dome stadium with air conditioning.
Yeah.
That was in the stipulation for the historical registry in the state of Texas. First dome stadium with air conditioning.
Because the Colt 45s, the predecessor to the Astros, played their first couple seasons in Houston, Texas, in the summer, outdoors.
Yeah.
People are like, this doesn't work. We need to play indoors.
I just thought it was funny that on the historical registry, it specifically mentions with air conditioning. That just made me laugh.
Well, I mean, Astrodome is also where AstroTurf came from.
Well, but here's where Houston actually has a choice here. I don't know how long their contract is with NRG Stadium, which is the stadium they play in now. And I agree with you. It's only 20 years old. Like, right. What are we talking about here? But there is a play where a San Antonio Austin group could come together and say, hey, we will build you a new stadium if you move to this direction.
No.
They can play that game.
I know they can play that game, but Houston lost the Oilers. They've supported the Oilers. They supported the Texans.
Yeah.
They can't lose another team. It can't be allowed.
I know, but this is the dirty game of that, is they have a card to play. And so they are going to get this money. And it's going to be for renovations on the stadium they have now. They're not going to build a new stadium, because the only place you can really build it, from my knowledge of Texas geography, which is very little, is the Astrodome, and that can't go anywhere, which is dumb, by the way. It's a giant dome stadium. This isn't the Alamo.
No.
Like, this isn't a historical site. Like,
and
it's a building.
It's rotting, and they don't do anything in the Astrodome anymore. I've been to a game there. I've actually done the tour of it.
Have you really?
It was yeah. Well, my brother used to live down there, so we went through it. It actually was very slick, because the seats actually rotated to change from baseball to football.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool.
It was very slick.
Is that where the Oilers played?
That's where the Oilers played.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. They played, Oilers and Astros played in the same dome. It was way ahead of its time, but its time has passed. It's like a canal in a certain town that we grew up in. It was used for 10 years. Fill it in. It's an eyesore now.
You can't give this up, can you?
The Astrodome can go away, and people can remember it.
Well, it can't now.
Well, not now. No.
It definitely can't now. The Texans are going to play this very smartly, and they are going to win, because, again, they have a card to play. And if San Antonio Austin group comes together and says, especially Austin with the way it's growing right now, and if you can think of all the tech conglomerates that have moved there, like, they're going to be willing to chip in some money for sponsoring a stadium. That could easily happen. And so they're going to get the money, and it's going to be public funding, which is unfortunate. It's the same thing the Chiefs have and the Royals have. Kansas is like, hey, we'll give it to you, because they're on the Missouri side, and they got to play this game. And it's unfortunate that teams are able to do this, but if cities are willing to step up, why wouldn't you?
Yes, but I think there'll be a compromise. I don't think the league wants to see Houston lose another team.
They don't.
They may want to expand and make Texas the second state with 3 teams in it. California used to have 3 teams.
They still do. 2 LA teams and San Francisco.
That's right.
They used to have 4 teams.
4 teams. That was it. My math was going way wrong on that. But, San Antonio and Austin are big enough now they're close or within an hour of each other.
Right.
There's plenty of room. You could build a stadium and put a team there, and I think the area would support it.
Well, especially if you put it on the outside of one of those cities,
Mm-hmm.
and you build the traffic around there. Yeah, you'd pack the place on a regular basis,
And
and there is a lot of money in Austin that would make that move very, very interesting.
There are a lot of football fans there too. So who knows if they'll expand there? I want to see Houston doing it, but you mentioned something about crowds and about traffic and about trying to get to places like the Rays Stadium. The draft is coming up in Green Bay, Wisconsin.
Yeah,
For those of you who don't know, Green Bay is a tiny town. It's about 100,000 people.
yeah,
Last year at the draft in Detroit,
yeah.
they had 750,000.
Right.
Where are they going to put people?
So this is where it was interesting. The renderings came out, which I'm going to show right now. So this is where the stage is going to be, which means it's basically going to be on the road. The stage will be facing Lambeau,
Mm-hmm.
which means they're going to close down the street because they're going to take down fences and stuff. So that street's going to be closed down. There's nothing but houses on the other side. So you're basically taking up a parking lot. So you can't park there now. There's going to be minimum 300,000 people here.
I think there's going to be maybe closer to 1 million people there.
Probably. But look at this zoomed out area of
Mhm.
Green Bay here. Where are people going to park?
Lambeau is in the middle of of neighborhoods. Now,
There's no parking garages.
well, now when you think about it, when we used to go to the games, all the people on the south side of the stadium
Yeah.
would let people park in their yards, and they would literally pay their mortgages for the year from the revenue they got from letting cars park there.
yeah,
That's going to have to happen again,
sure.
and you're going to have to, people are going to be, there are no hotels, not enough in Green Bay for all these people to stay. They're going to be staying in Appleton, which is 30 minutes, 45 minutes away.
Well, an hour and a half with that many people here
Sure.
with traffic.
They'll be staying in Sheboygan, which is up in Door County. That's an hour away.
Sheboygan is not in Door County.
Or not Sheboygan. I'm thinking Sturgeon Bay.
Sturgeon Bay.
Sturgeon
yeah.
Bay, sorry.
They'll
Sheboygan.
also stay in Sheboygan.
Yeah, probably.
They'll stay in Fond du Lac. They'll stay in Milwaukee. They'll stay in Madison. They're going to
They're-
stay in a bunch of different places.
Rumor has it they're bringing in cruise ships to park in the bay so
Yeah.
people can have hotels there.
That's still a long way away from Lambeau.
Well, and I've heard hotels in the area are charging up to 15 times their regular
of
rate.
course they are. Why wouldn't
And
they?
they're getting it, obviously.
Right.
Airbnb
But the
is
whole
going to be used.
parking area that's normally for games is going to be used up by staff and reporters
And the other
and
teams.
the other teams. Like, that's all going to be taken up by different people. I mean, you're going to have, can you imagine being in the neighborhood next to Green Bay? Because I normally park on the north side. It's a neighborhood. You park on the streets, easy in, easy out. There's going to be so many people there. I just don't. I mean, you have to park 6 blocks away if you get there late to a game now.
Mm-hmm. I don't.
That's 80,000 people.
Look, this is a Packers Super Bowl. They'll never host a Super Bowl
No.
for obvious reasons. Number one, weather. Number two, no dome.
Right.
Number three, it's a small town.
100,000 people.
They do
It's
not.
a small sports market in
Yes,
the country.
there's not enough hotels. So this is their big event. They're doing it. Mark Murphy's on his way out. They were able to get this.
Correct.
The draft has turned into one of the biggest, most major events in the NFL year. It's going to be interesting to see
Well,
what
it's at
happens.
Lambeau. I mean, it's going to be awesome.
Yes, because
Don't get me wrong.
people, I mean, Lambeau is a destination. It's a fantasy trip for a lot of
Yeah.
football fans because it is the shrine to football in
Yeah.
America. It's the greatest stadium, and I'm not being biased. It always wins when you do ratings of the stadiums.
Yeah.
Lambeau is always number one.
As it should be.
Yeah.
But again, I'm going to show this again. Where are people going to go?
Well, and here's the other thing. People are going to be drinking. I don't want them driving.
You have to. There's no place to stay.
You're going to have shuttles, a lot of shuttles from different places and buses. Uber is going to make a fortune.
I'm
But
sure.
People should not be driving.
But where are they going to go? Because look at the street here. This is the main road to get to Lambeau. It's going to be closed. You can't have people, you can't have 500,000 people here, which is very likely to be seen, and have that road open, which, by the way, is the main exit to also get into Lambeau. Like, people that don't know that area very well, I don't think understand what they're about to walk into. Like, this is cool to go there because it's in a neighborhood, and for a game, it's great.
Plus, you've got the Hall of Fame there.
Right.
This is going to be a huge event.
I mean, I'm assuming for the most part, Lambeau is going to be closed.
No, the Hall of Fame will be open during the day.
During the day, but at night, you can't go in the stadium. They're going to have it all closed down. I mean, this is a parking lot here that's not going to fit that many people.
The one thing I trust is the NFL and ESPN to put on an event like this. They've had experience. They did it in Nashville. They did it in Detroit, and they've been great events.
Yes.
But those cities are also convention cities, and they're used to it.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure they know what they're doing. They're professionals. They've done this. They've obviously been mapping this out for a long time. And I'm not worried about ESPN and the NFL having this figured out. What I'm worried about is the people that show up to this event. They will not be prepared for the chaos that is about to happen, and the police force for the chaos that is about to happen, because the NFL doesn't care about anything but the show and the players and the teams, nor should they.
The city is going to have to bring in police from everywhere. Here's what can't wait to see is the people from, we'll just pick a city. Somebody's flying in from San Francisco to go to the draft. They're going to fly into Milwaukee.
God save them.
They're going to rent a car, and then they're going to think, we'll just drive up to Green Bay.
Yeah.
Welcome to our nightmare.
Good luck.
To use an Alice Cooper song, it's going to be nuts.
I mean, there's people outside of Green Bay that see Green Bay and see it's the coolest thing, and it is. But you don't understand. I mean, take a small town that you have in your home state. That's what Green Bay is. It's literally a port town.
Right.
That's all it's ever been.
Without the Packers, it's Dubuque.
It is. I mean, it's just a small little port town. It's where a lot of ships come in and get repaired and all that fun stuff goes on. It's a tiny town that just happens to have the winningest football franchise in history.
Yeah.
And you're going to put a draft there that just saw 750,000 people, which, by the way, is 7 times larger than the population of Green Bay.
And by the way, we're still hoping to be there to broadcast. So, I mean, I'm hoping this all works out.
It would be cool. There's going to be a lot of people, and this isn't one of those in Detroit. You stumble away, there's cabs there, and you go to your hotel. Like, these people are going to have to drive a long way to get wherever they're going, and it's going to be a situation. It's going to be cool to see the show, but there's going to be an aftermath.
There's going to be some stories after this is done.
It's going to absolutely be insane. But you and I have had a good show. As you all know, you cannot have a conversation with your dad without your father getting the last word. So it is all you.
Yeah. So my last word is going to go back to what we were talking about with baseball, and you saying that going to bigger bases was a good thing and getting rid of the crashes at second base are a good thing. No, it's not. Let's take baseball back to what it really should be. It is a contact sport. These guys are men. They should be ready to play, and let them do it. Have the catchers be at home plate and be allowed to block the plate. That's what they're there for. This game is getting, I don't know, too politically correct. They're trying to save the players because they're making so much money. You're losing your audience, baseball. Take it back to the game that was played in the 70s and 80s, and you might have an audience again. And oh, by the way, start your World Series games at 6 p.m.
Now, wait a minute. The big base thing, I want to go back to that one here. This is absolutely ridiculous.
My last word. Thanks for watching the show.
Thank you, as always, so much for watching. This has been Sports Talk with Dad. We'll see you next time.
Bye, everybody.